there's something about it that I don't know. A deer hunt, you put your corn out. There's a lot of strategy to deer hunting.
Especially because I like to not hunt over corn if you can help it, and just hunt over travel corridors or like find a funnel.
Yeah,
and that's why I go mobile with the tree saddle.
The best luck I've had was over on Friendship Road, as far as. Didn't have a lot of big bucks come in there, but I had tons of does that would walk through every morning.
And you were forced to figure out their travel routes.
Right, because the first 2 or 3 months of season, it was warmer, so they weren't moving as much.
Yeah.
But I saw one doe and shot at it, and it went 5 feet over her back. Because
that's when you had a jacked up bow.
Oh, it was horrible. That's when I was first started bow hunting, and I didn't go to Bowman Kenny yet, which we'll talk about.
Bowman Kenny. I've never called him that.
Oh, he's Bowman Kenny, man. I love him. I hope we could get him on one day. But anyway, yeah, so the thing is, I had to figure out with that property, I'm like 3 months and only one deer. Something's wrong here.
Yeah.
And we even planted a little bit of the cheap Walmart shaken feed or shaken
food plot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And which that stuff is... I wouldn't waste your money on that if I was any of y'all starting out. But anyway, I'm going back to the truck, so we go up that trail. Remember we cut out all that.
Yeah, we cut a trail in there.
So we went back up to where I was parking the truck, and I went to a logging road on that property that was even closer to where I was parking.
Yeah.
Literally had to pass it to get to where I was hunting. So I went back, and I walked down this trail. Mind you, this is when Lauren was with me.
We're still talking about deer, right?
Yeah, we're talking about deer, but I'm just kind of talking about deer strategy.
Yeah,
the difference between that and how. Yeah. And so we got back in the truck. We were about to leave, and I said, "Let me go check this logging road to see if I see any trails, hoof prints, deer signs of deer." So I'm walking down this trail, have my gun with me, or bow, and still bow season. And I didn't have a muzzle loader, so I'm walking down this trail. I get 25, 30 yards into it, and I spook and blow out a doe. Mm-hmm. I'm like...
On a travel route.
And what I found an X. Mm-hmm. 2 travel routes that converge in this one spot from, like, one coming in from the east and one coming in from the south, and converging right here, and they go off in 2 different ways. Mm-hmm. So I have 2 different travel routes overlapping. So what did I do? I stuck 2 bags of corn right there. I said, this is my spot. And we went and got pallets. I set the pallets up on a hill.
Redneck blind.
Yep.
Yeah.
Shot 2 of those. Shot 2 does that season.
Yeah. So, but your point was it's a different kind of strategy because you don't call with deer like, well, you can, but it's still not quite the same thing.
No, and they don't, and bucks are not going to call back.
Yeah,
not that I've ever heard. I've blown, or I've rattled in one buck in the past 2 years, and it was an 8-pointer was chasing some does. This is the property that I hunt, your property now. Back when we had that hunting spot closer to the river, and I was sitting up there, and a few does walked in. The only one that I could really shoot was tiny little, not even a yearling.
Yeah,
and so I'm not going to shoot a yearling, not worth the meat, and I feel like crap, but. But there was 4 other does behind me, and they take off back towards the river. All of a sudden, I see a magnificent buck come up in the wood line and stop at the wood line and start smelling. Mm-hmm. And I think he smelled me. I don't know, but he goes in the direction they went, and he does it staying in the woods and goes around.
Yep,
unbelievable. And I'm shaking. Mm-hmm. And then I get to a point where I would have to shoot. I'd have to climb the tree out of my stand, lean over a limb to get a shot at it, and then I'd just be shooting through brush at like 120 yards. So I let it walk. Here's what I do. I sit back down, get my rattle bag, start rattling. Wait a little bit, rattle some more. And the 8-pointer doesn't come back. That big 6-pointer that we've seen, that you have some sheds from.
Yeah, I have some of his like 2-year-old sheds.
Yeah. Dude, I hear a commotion. This is less than 5 minutes later.
They're not up there. Yeah, it is. That was him when he was a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
No, that's not him.
No, he's bigger than that.
I don't know what. Oh, it's right there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
that one. he was 2 at that point.
And he was bigger than that now. But this deer right here, he comes in.
We're messing up because we're talking about deer stories, and that's a podcast for another day.
It is. We'll get back to that. But he comes in raising, pardon my language, he's raising hell.
He was thick. His main beams were, for a 2-year-old at the time. And by then, I saw him that season too. He was big. He was really big. Huge. Yeah, because I almost took a shot. He never slowed down.
No. So he comes into that field, and he slinging his antlers against limbs, hanging
pissed.
Limbs. He's slamming the ground. He's ready for a dang fight.
Yeah.
And he comes in ready to fight. And I'm like, and the whole time I've got my gun on him but it's not a broad shot. He's right at me. He ends up walking right under the stand, right by it, down towards where the does went. After he figures out there's not a fight to be had there. But anyway, I guess the whole point is saying, deer hunting is just different in the aspect of, it's the same when you're calling for a buck. You're showing there's a fight over territory. With a turkey, they're trying to get a female, right? A hen. They're trying to find a mate or whatever.
Yeah,
it's the basic understanding.
They're having a love conversation. You're trying to woo the turkey in,
right? Yeah,
and it's a totally different game because it's not a here I am, bring it, bro. It's a hey, how you doing? Do you want to come on in? Yeah. And you talk back and forth for a really long time sometimes until they don't talk. But anyway, so we turkey hunted off and on at your family property in Virginia. We turkey hunted here, a couple different places. And this went on for honestly about, if we were 16 or 17 then, we hunted for like a decade.
Yeah.
Off and on, not every year, but like every now and then we'd come back to it. We'd be like, well, let's try turkey hunt again.
Yeah.
And it just never worked.
Well, and two, we could, we would get them to talk, but we didn't really know because we didn't have really anybody
to teach us.
Yeah. And so we were trying to learn from our mistakes and learn what worked, what didn't. And we finally, this is when YouTube and stuff is in its evolutionary stage when really...
There wasn't really many people out there who was just like doing DIY videos. Here's how we do it.
No, because most of your hunters are not IT or like video.
They are now.
They
weren't then, yeah.
But back then,
if it wasn't on the Outdoor Channel, heavily produced, it wasn't really a hunting thing.
Right, and we didn't watch that at my house. And I and I'm the type of person, I can sit and watch someone hunt now, but back then, if it's golf, fishing, hunting, I want to be doing it, not watching it.
I would rather gouge my eyes out than watch somebody play golf.
Oh, man.
I can't do it.
I can't remember a time when I could actually sit and watch golf. And now, watching them play at these beautiful golf courses is pretty, but after a few minutes, I'm like, okay, he hit it, and now the ball's there.
And now it's rolling.
Now it's in the sand pit. And I actually played in middle school. Yeah. And I wasn't bad, but
I was bad.
I just don't get as much enjoyment out of being in the woods trying to kill something.
So a decade of off and on turkey hunting. I remember we tried in Virginia. And the funny thing is, we had tried a couple more times when we were young because we were 16 or 17 and we were just so fed up about the turkeys. We tried again like 3 weeks after the hunt where our shoes melted. And I don't know if you remember this or not, but we left my family's property. We were so mad. You're like, let's go eat at King Kitchen or something. Or like maybe we're going to the drugstore to get like a grilled cheese and a drink. I don't remember. But we left and we were going down Butner Road. And you were in front of me in that red Dodge truck your dad had. Yep. You drove for a few years.
Yep.
And there's some turkeys in this curve off the road.
Yeah.
And you were so mad that when these turkeys come out, I remember seeing them kind of like waddle out of the wood line because we're in a straightaway.
Not turkey buzzards, real turkeys.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, as they waddle out to cross the road, because turkeys are dumb, it's like it takes them just a minute to figure out they're still real. They haven't processed that they can't cross yet until you're just about on them.
Yeah.
And I just see you start to leave the road. And you leave the road in the truck and you're off and I'm behind you and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is he doing? And you're chasing turkeys in the grass off the side of the road and they're running away from you. And I'm like, he's going to wreck here in a minute. And I mean, like, what were you going to do if you actually ran over one?
I don't know. I wasn't thinking.
It's like all rational thought had left and you had turkey bloodlust.
I did.
And so you left the road. And I mean, I remember that. And I'm like, I can't believe that. He just left the road and he's chasing turkeys in his truck. After we left turkey hunting that morning. That was what was crazy about it.
It's like being in a deer stand all day and then you're driving home and you're like mad because it was good weather.
Yeah.
You had prepped, you got up at 5 or whatever time and you were there on time and you kept your clothes from getting smelly and you put on everything and you did the walking and held your poop for 3 hours and you're driving home and you're defeated and then you see a buck on the side of the road.
Oh,
They're walking in the woods and it's infuriating. It's like, why can't you be where I'm at?
It was just funny because your chosen weapon was your vehicle. You were like, fine, I'm going after it. And I thought, like, I remember you got pretty mad. You were like, this is stupid. We've been trying to hunt turkeys and it just doesn't work. I thought it had kind of gone away. And I didn't realize you were actually holding a grudge because we went camping that following fall in Virginia and a turkey flies through and you run to the truck. It's not seasoned anywhere. We don't even have tags. And you get a gun out and I'm like, what are you doing? And you just start boom, boom, boom. And this turkey is not on the ground like typical turkey hunt. It's flying like it's duck hunting with turkeys at this point out of season. It's as redneck as it gets.
Oh yeah.
And you're just going after this turkey. And I guess it was just a God thing that you didn't hit the turkey. Cause I'm like, at the time someone had sold me this story that they'll microchip turkeys and they know if you shot one. And I was paranoid. So I'm like, don't shoot the turkey. What are you doing? You're like, I'm going to shoot that freaking turkey out of that tree. And you shot like 4 times at this turkey and it would tree hop. It would be in this tree and you'd shoot at it and it would take off again. And it did this till you were pretty much out of shotgun shells and you finally gave up on the turkey.
Yeah. There's 2 things you should never mix with firearms, and that's anger and alcohol. And I'd not had alcohol, but I was angry.
You were full of hate for turkeys.
And I've witnessed you do something similar.
I have no doubt.
But we were at Virginia camping.
Yeah.
And we just got there and we're setting up camp, and a big old doe walked across the creek.
I'm pretty sure I had a pistol.
It was.
Yeah.
You had a Glock, and you went, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, whoa. And
it's been a bad deer season.
And I think what you were thinking is, we'll eat this thing and cook it tonight.
It'd be gone. Nobody know about it.
Yeah. But
it didn't work out.
Luckily,
that way.
we both missed in those situations and saved ourselves some guilt.
So, turkey hunting off and on for a decade, and it got to a point where me and we weren't really hunting together for a while there. Like you were starting to deer hunt. You were starting to you kind of phased out of the hunting for a little while because you had BLET, you got hired on with Winston, you had a lot going on for a while, and then a couple of years down the road, you buy a house, so like it wasn't top priority.
Right.
But like I always hunted just here on the family property and stuff, so we kind of gotten out of the whole hunting together thing, and the turkey itch was gone, but...
Well, when you go that long
without getting anything,
it turns into anger, and hunting in general, you need to have a genuine appreciation and respect and love for outdoors.
And when you've got that many times of failure, you need a break, you need a breather.
Right.
But without telling you, I think I had decided. I just really had an itch back in 2020 to be in the woods, and deer season was over. I was done hunting, and I haven't had the best luck hunting bucks in the last few years. So I was like, I need something else.
Yeah.
So I went on a hunt down here. It's the first year my dad owned my great uncle's farm after he passed. And I had just bought a brand new Chevy truck, and turkey season came in like a week later. So I woke up that morning, left the house. I'm like, I'm going to drive to my dad's. I'm going to get out and I'm going to go turkey hunt. And I was running behind. So I get everything and I get parked, grab my shotgun, grab my camo, get out of the truck, have my pot call. And I'm like, I don't know why I had this irrational fear that I was going to like set off my car alarm in my pocket because I'd driven the same truck since I was 17, and it was like bare bones, and this one had everything on it. So I was like,
bells and whistles.
Whatever. So I threw my key into the console, in the cup holder, shut the door because I'm running late. Sun's up. It's like 7:45. When the door shuts on the new Chevy, it goes beep, beep, beep. And I'm like, oh, crap. But before I can think about it, I hear down the hill. And I'm like, no way. And in all the years of trying to shoot turkeys, I'd never heard of a shot gobble at the time. Like, no one had ever mentioned to me that they'll shot gobble.
I hadn't heard of anything. Yeah.
So I open my truck door. I get the key out. And I stop, I think for a minute, and I put the key back. And I slam the door again. Beep, beep, beep. I'm like, what is going on right now? And so I get my calls, and I get my gun, and I go like 40 yards down the hill from my truck. Get situated against a tree, call a couple times. I hear them coming, and they're fired up. And I'm sitting there. I'm like, this has never happened before. Like, I'm a horrible turkey hunter. Like, what is it must be the new truck. It's lucky. I don't know. So I get set up. I'm sitting there, and right at that sweet spot where they quit talking to you, I'm like, this is dumb. Here we go again. They're gone.
Yeah.
2 of them come up over the hill, and they're right here. And I'm like, trying to see, because they're barely out of my vision, and my gun's facing this way on my knee. And as they come up and around, there's 2 toms. There's a Jake and a Tom. One of them was young, and I don't know why he tolerated that Jake behind him, but I turned and I smoked that Tom. And I remember it was my first turkey, and he had big spurs. Like I knew what I'd shot, and he was a beautiful bird. And I called you a couple days later. I'm like, dude, I'm hooked.
Oh, yeah.
I talked to him. My truck talked to him. They talked back. They talked to the truck. Everything was awesome. Yep. I don't know why it changed, but it did. I sent you pictures of that turkey.
Yep.
And after that, I was like, we got to do this again.
Oh, yeah.
So me and you, at this point, we were hunting pretty heavy together. We'd started deer hunting and stuff. And we had an ongoing joke that we had great luck when we're not hunting together. But when we hunt together, it always goes wrong.
Yep.
I don't know why that is. We've done it with squirrel hunts. We've done it with deer hunts, turkey hunts, plenty.
Yeah.
And it did not go well. But we tried again. Same thing. Had no luck that year. We were like, this is just not going good. So turkey season comes and goes. Deer season comes. We both shot a couple deer that year. And then last spring, we were. Am I missing anything before we get to the big one?
No,
I don't think so.
That's the line.
Yeah,
the line of all that is pretty.
And in between all that, like I remember, we'd be sitting there hunting deer together. And this is the funny part. I remember was sitting on my property hunting deer in a great spot, same spot that buck came out.
Yep.
And I'm in my tree saddle, and you're in a stand in front of me. And down a logging road comes a freaking turkey, just like, hey.
Yep.
Just like mocking us.
Yeah.
When turkey season rolls around, they're never there.
No. Yeah.
And so we agreed. Deer season was over. We'd had pretty good luck that year, decent luck. We at least both shot one. I don't remember.
Yeah. I think
you shot one, and you were pretty frustrated about it.
Yeah, I only shot one. I was trying to get another one. Only had a few days of season left. I tried a few different spots, and I got to where up here, right up this road from us is a stand his dad built years ago. And you were just putting out some corn and apples every now and again. And
it's just my spot to get a doe if I need one.
Right, and you had a few does coming out, and you're like, my freezer's pretty much full. Come get you one.
Yeah.
And so I came up here I took a day off work to come, and or I came right after work one, but I came in, and 2 evenings in a row, I watched these 3 tiny does come out.
Yeah.
And you were with me one time, and you were like, man, take a shot. It's like, take the shot. And I couldn't pull the trigger. It was
better than nothing was my thought.
Right. And
I knew they were small.
It would have been, but it probably would have been maybe 25, 30 pounds of meat max. And I just thought, man, these does, give them a few years, and they're going to get you 100 pounds of meat. maybe, or at least 60, 70 pounds.
70 pounds, yeah.
Yeah, and that's just kind of, I think that's more ethical. Kill them when they're young. Some people are not that way, and I just don't agree. Some people shoot anything that moves, and I don't agree with that. But anyways, yeah, I've been frustrated that deer season, and that was the ongoing joke is when it's deer season, you'll see 100 squirrels. As soon as deer season's over and you're ready to go take out those squirrels that have been pestering you the whole time, they're nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
And then this past season, I saw deer season, I saw in the stand that we built, which if y'all haven't seen the video of us building it and me without my shirt on, y'all should go watch it. It's on the same channel.
We'll do one of them
sidebar links.
Pop sidebar.
Yeah, right here. I don't know how to do that stuff.
We'll figure it out.
Anyway,
I think it'd be over your head, actually.
Yeah, somewhere in the cloud. No, I don't.
Yeah.
Anyway, there'd been 2 or 3 times where I'm sitting there about to doze off in the morning, and I hear something. I'm like, here we go. That ain't a squirrel. That's a deer walking in. And I had some deer walk in.
Yeah.
But a couple times, one was 25 turkeys all in a line.
Damn turkeys.
Oh, and I was watching, and I would watch them, and they'd come into the field towards the corn, eat them some corn. And and that's the thing about turkeys. Another thing, if you don't understand or haven't ever hunted them, the best vision of any animal.
You move a little bit and they all freeze.
Yeah,
and look up at you.
They do. And deer, you can sit there and stare at them as long as you don't move and they don't alert, and you don't move fast. You can get away with it. They're more scent based. Turkeys are not scent based; they are vision based.
Vision, everything.
You move even from we're 20-some feet up in that stand, and if you move a little bit, they're gone.
So me and you, last turkey season, this just hit me. Mm-hmm. We're like, let's go together. Mm-hmm. Or did this happen after? I don't remember. Anyway, we went one time. Mm-hmm. Heard some turkeys. We were sitting against a tree.
Oh, back.
Yes.
This is the second time we went.
Okay, we'll get to that.
Yeah. So this is the second time because
you had a few days off, right, when turkey season came in. Uh-huh. And so I hadn't even bothered to get in the woods because I'm sure I'd had another kid or something, and we were occupied. But you were hunting my property, and you were like, yeah, I'm not really seeing anything, man.
That was over typical. At the other, not here, but the other land.
Okay.
I went over there, and I went maybe a couple days, and I tried a few different spots. The problem is I wasn't thinking about water sources and how they roost near water. That's one of those things that I learned in that amount of time.
So you told me, you were like, it's another year, same old stupid turkey story.
Yeah.
I was like, let's, even though we have horrible luck together, let's both just go on my dad's property, because I had been seeing a bunch of turkeys in the off season. I'm like, I know where they're coming out. So I told you, I was like, well, this coming Saturday, we're going to both go turkey hunting, and we're going to see if, even though we're unlucky usually doing this, we're both going to sit down, same spot together, and we're going to try to get a turkey. So you met up with me that morning, and I honestly don't think either one of us thought it was going to go well. But we walked the wood line up through one of my dad's cow pastures, and we sat in sort of a little opening in the woods. It's right at a transition from a field that's not fenced in and thicker woods. Mm-hmm. And you're like, I remember you told me, you're like, are you sure this is the right spot? I was like, yeah, just trust me, they're here.
Yeah.
And we called for a little while, and nothing happened.
Yeah, and see, my thought was the spot the transition spot was not a bad spot per se, but the thing is we had decoys. We had both.
Yeah, so we had this issue with where to put decoys where they'd see them
and not see us.
Yeah.
And so I was like, why don't we go down towards the creek that runs down at the bottom of those fields?
So we went about 100 yards further down from where I'd been seeing those turkeys. Mm-hmm. And we swapped directions. Instead of facing the woods, we faced the field.
Right.
And took a chance on them potentially coming out to meet those decoys.
Right. And my thinking was, if they come from behind us, which is very possible, then we'll just be steady, or one of us try to take a shot.
Hold it real still till they come around us.
Right, which is hard to do. But yeah, we put them out in the field, probably 30 yards from us, something like that, and we just sat there and started calling.
And you had a crow call for shot gobbles.
Right.
And it wasn't until you hit that crow call that I remember we finally got an answer. And it's like once they broke that silence, they were in.
They were fired up.
And they kept talking. And they quit.
Yeah.
And there's always that point with turkey hunting where they quit.
Yeah.
And they're within 100 yards and they're trying to figure it out and they will not answer. And that's when you don't want to overcall too much.
Right.
And so we were probably on the edge of it because we were like, we're getting somewhere with this. Like they're coming in, they're not where I thought they were, but they're close, and they kind of come around our location. Mm-hmm. And
they were getting louder. We could hear them coming in.
And I was just happy to be out there. It'd been a hard week that week, and I remember sitting against a tree. We were actually sitting against the same tree, if I'm not mistaken, on different sides of it.
Big oak tree.
Yeah, there were some limbs that came down and kind of hit us a little bit.
Yeah.
And I had zoned out.
Mm-hmm. Oh, me too.
I was sitting there watching the sun come up. It was hitting me. It was perfect. It was warm, beautiful spring day. And all of a sudden, I looked up, and we'll have to bleep this out, but I looked up, and to the side, I swear it's like they were racing.
Oh, yeah.
I look up, and I'm like, oh, shit. Here comes 2 turkeys. I mean, it was like they were running a relay.
Oh, yeah.
Just as hard as they could go across that field.
Flying towards them decoys.
And you had this little dinky male decoy. Mm-hmm. I don't remember what they call those. And then I had a female. But the only one I had, or still have at the time, it's the only one I could find, it was a 2D decoy.
It was flat.
Yes. Yeah. So from their direction, they're running and they see her.
Oh, yeah.
And they're fired up. And it was like me first. They weren't fighting yet. It's like they thought in their heads, if we can just get there before the other guy, he'll leave us alone or we can handle that later. So they were racing. And they get to my female and they round her. And when they round the corner and she goes from realistic to paper thin, they both freeze up and look at each other. They both look at each other and they look back at her and they look at each other and look back at her and they just start rounding in a corner and then they come back and they were so confused.
Oh, yeah.
These 2 turkeys had no idea. Then they'd run up to your little bitty male and he was like a 3D decoy.
Yeah.
And it's almost like they were trying to talk to him like, what is happening right now?
What are you doing?
And I was so enthralled that this had worked. Mm-hmm. And there were 2 of them.
Yeah, they were, and they weren't huge toms, but they were bigger jakes.
Yeah, I mean they were on the edge, but they weren't bad sized turkeys. And I'll be honest, I don't care that much with turkeys. No. It's not like a buck. So finally, I snap out of it, and I'm like, "Oh crap! Like we got to do something, and we can't talk because they'll leave as soon as they see movement."
We're stoned.
So I counted on you knowing what I was going to do. And I set up real fast. Didn't even have a turkey choke. Couldn't find a turkey choke that morning. And I blew the first one close to me away. And he dropped. And the other one's like, that's it. I'm done. And he starts running away, like into the sunrise.
And I pulled my gun up and lost my front sight.
Yeah.
I couldn't find my bead. And I'm like, this can't happen. This was perfect.
Yeah, couldn't have been better.
A decade of not being able to shoot a
failures.
turkey, of just talking to him at a distance and failures. And he just shot one, and I could tell it was down. It was on the ground freaking out. I gotta find my bead. So I finally wrangle my front bead and get him right on his head. Boom.
Yeah.
And it goes down too.
So after over 10 years of hunting turkeys and a long time hunting together with absolute awful luck, we managed to bring in not 1, but 2 and shoot 2 turkeys at the same time that morning.
I remember after my shot, we were quiet for just a few seconds, and then we erupted.
We lost it.
We were so freaking pumped up. We were high-fiving and all kinds of stuff, and then the realization came that we could have recorded this.
And we didn't. We didn't record anything.
Why would we record another failure?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, so we never got a bit of it.
But that's the thing with doing this. Sometimes it's hit or miss, and if you don't record every one of them, you'll miss something.
But it made for a heck of a story.
Oh, yeah. It was.
And from that hunt, so this is a feather from one of the ones I killed, from the one I shot.
Okay.
And this is actually the shotgun shell.
Oh, okay.
From the shot that I fired that shot that turkey.
Okay. Yeah, 20 gauge.
Yeah. I don't know why. I have an old 20 gauge. My dad gave me for Christmas when I was like, well, we'll leave that age part out. But he gave it to me a long time ago, and it doesn't eject shells right. But for whatever reason, I'm fond of that gun. I can shoot anything with that gun. We've shot skeets a lot with that, and I always do better with that gun. So I took my 20 gauge, no choke, nothing. Now, if you hadn't had a choke, I don't think you could have made that shot because he got away. He was out of there.
He had probably, I'd say the furthest he got, I'd say it may have been 35, 40-yard shot.
Yeah, he was booking it. I thought he was gone.
Because he went away from the direction of
I remember when you shot him, you shot, his head snapped forward, and then his wings came up, and he did a somersault. It was cool.
Oh, yeah. Dude, I wish more than anything we had that on camera. I mean, it's not a huge deal because we both remember it so vividly, but the cool thing about it was it's not only because we had talked about, if one comes, Big Tom comes, who shoots it, your family's property, but you've shot one, I haven't. And all this. So you were like you've been a lot of times generous, and you said, "Hey, if one comes out, you take a shot on it."
But here's the thing: we had two, and you weren't shooting, and I was like, "He's waiting on me. He don't know what to do because there's two of them."
Yeah.
So I was like, "I'm shooting a turkey." So I shot. I'm like, if nothing else, it'll snap you out, and you can shoot the other one. And it could not have gone better if. I mean, you couldn't have planned it any better to work out the way it did.
The only way it would have been better if we would have shot at the same time.
Yeah,
but we tried because I saw you move. I didn't even have to hear you or see you. I could feel you were pulling your gun up.
Yeah,
because we both had them laying kind of that direction, but down.
Yep,
in a safe direction. And then when they came, we're like, that's the hard part because
they were glued to each other for a while too. They would not separate.
No, and here's the thing. Whenever you're, like we just talked about a little bit ago, they're vision based. And when you're only 25 yards away, they're going to see you. So when it's time to go, when it is go time, you got to go.
And I didn't want to shoot a decoy either. And they were right between those two decoys.
Oh, yeah. You had to wait. And that's the hard part. Timing is everything when you're in that position.
Felt like forever.
Yeah, because you whispered, you're like, "Are you ready?" And I'm like, "I don't know." Because you got to think safety, get the gun in a position, and once you start that movement, they know something's up.
Yeah, you better be ready.
And so we both,
and they caught you with your gun down.
Oh yeah,
that's the thing. I had mine down here, and you had yours on the other side. Neither one of us had them propped up on our knee or anything.
Oh no, we weren't ready at all.
Yeah, we were not ready. I was thinking about something else
because we said I remember this. You said you ready? Are you ready to go in?
Yeah, I was hungry.
Yeah, and I think what Meredith fixed the breakfast that morning.
Yeah,
and we were going to go eat. And I said, "Let's get 10 more minutes." Or one of us said, "Let's do 10 more minutes."
No, it was you. You wanted to wait, and I was like, "I don't know, man. I'm pretty hungry."
Because at that point, we had talked to him, and then nothing,
and it was another failure.
And so we stopped calling and everything, like we've heard you're supposed to do, which worked brilliantly. But at that point in time, we thought they're not coming. So we're like, I said 10 more minutes, and then I'm gonna go poop, and we'll eat breakfast. I know everything revolves around poop with me, but so yeah, it was like
picture perfect, like you'd written it into a movie.
Oh yeah. It was a beautiful day. Couldn't ask for a more beautiful day, and then just that moment. There's nothing quite like it, and that's why not to go off topic, but. When people are anti-hunting and people are just, and not really anti-gun, but people that just don't get it, I understand why they don't get it because you've got to experience that. When you don't have a dad or friend or somebody that gets you into that and you don't experience it for yourself, and having the ability to go do it and sit somewhere and experience that is unlike anything.
Well, and people don't understand this either. You care about, I've heard it put this way before. When you talk to someone that's anti-hunting, I can't stand it when somebody who eats meat is anti-hunting because it just tells me that you just don't have this, you'd rather bury your head in the sand. But when people get mad about something, you cared about a animal. I care about the resource.
Right.
And when people who hunt who live that way love something, they will do anything to protect it, to cultivate it, to make sure it's here for generations to come.
Right.
And that's something people who don't do that, who don't live that lifestyle, they're never going to incorporate as much of their resource. They're never going to contribute as much because they don't think about it every day. I think about it every day. Therefore, I will do anything to make sure my son has squirrels to hunt, has deer to hunt, has a bear to go chase at the coast, or whatever that is. It means so much. Like, I was sitting there at the zoo a few weeks ago with my son, and we're looking at black bears. And everyone's like, oh, cool bears. And I'm like, this is so cool because I've watched them. I've watched them walk around in the woods. Yep. Same thing with deer. Same thing with turkeys. Same thing with squirrels. You've invested time and money and all sorts of resources into something because you love it. You care about it. And unless you're actually in that position where you've taken a life to feed your family, where you've removed something from the landscape that has to be replenished, you have a decision to make once you've done that for the first time, which is, are you going to step away and say, that's not for me? And that's okay. It's not for everybody. Or I love it enough to make sure it's going to be there. Right. And that's important.
Well, and two, it comes down for me, to be several different things. There's ethical hunting and there's unethical hunting. There's there's property and land management. When you have deers, crows, turkeys can decimate crops.
Well, and if you leave them untouched, unmanaged, disease, I mean, all sorts of things come into play.
Right, and then you're talking about these diseases that are coming in with deer and stuff, and it can happen. It can happen drastic measures and stuff. And two, you think about when rut comes around and you see all these bucks on the side of the highway, which is make you cry if you're a deer hunter. But, there's ethical ways to do it. And what you got to understand is the deer that live on your property, they eat in deer season. They eat better than any other deer, and it's easy for them to get food because we put it right there for them.
Oh, yeah.
And then water sources, they have 3 or 4 within a few hundred yards of where we set up. And, and that's the thing to remember. It's it comes down to a lot of stuff for why it's enjoyable. But in the end, I don't shoot anything unless I'm going to eat it.
And when was the last time you heard an animal rights activist talk about CWD?
Oh, yeah.
Whereas we're all fired up and trying to make sure we do something to keep them around. To
prevent it.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like, I'm going to go off topic and then come right back. But, it's like the California dealing with these wildfires. And you have people that are supposedly conscious about the environment more than the rest of the country, which some of them, that probably have the good intentions. But guess what? Do you know why there's a thing called controlled burns?
Yeah, to prevent wildfires.
To prevent, you burn it, you control the burn in an area where there's no houses, and the areas in between that would cause. And see, what they did is outlawed that in California years and years ago. They outlawed it, and the result is now nature is doing what it does.
All right, we can wrap up pretty quick on the rest of this. I feel like we've hit most of our turkey hunting highs and lows, but I don't know. We had one other turkey story. That was pretty cool. That's a pretty good place to wrap up. This was after the double kill. We were done. Like, we were on a high, and we were like, let's go one more time. Like, before season's over, let's try to both get one more turkey. It worked the first time, why not a second? Something weird happened.
Yeah, so we went to the same area, starting out with, and from what I remember, we had one talking, but it was deep, really far away.
Yeah.
So before we started doing a bunch of calling, which in hindsight, maybe we should have stayed playing and see if we could talk it in. But
I don't think he was coming. I don't think he would have come either way.
Yeah, I think maybe after a couple times, we did try a couple times, and he wasn't moving. And if anything, he was further away.
Yeah.
Or to us at the time, it sounded like it went further away. So we went across the creek deep into the woods where you had that hunting spot set up for deer up on that hill.
Above the pond.
Yeah. And this is way back in the woods. So we go, we find a tree, and we sit at the base of it.
Mm-hmm. We set up decoys.
Set up our decoys, and
I chose that spot because I had seen them come out of the woods there deer hunting before, and I knew there was a group of them that would roost there.
Yeah.
So I mean, it had thought behind why we were there.
Yeah. It wasn't chasing the sound so much as getting out in this. It was kind of like an open space in the woods,
in an area where they were really comfortable, and they tended to come out and look for things to eat anyway.
Right.
In the morning time.
So we're sitting there, and
it's been a while.
Yeah, and no luck.
Yeah.
You know, we just didn't have anything really talking to us. So all of a sudden, I had taken my 9mm out of my holster, and I don't even know if I had a holster. I think I was in bibs or overalls. I didn't have a holster. So I had it in my bag. We had our 12 gauges. So all of a sudden you say, hey, there's a coyote.
Yeah.
And I'm like.
But I didn't think it was a coyote at first because it was the biggest, healthiest coyote I had ever seen. Mm-hmm. I thought it was a German Shepherd walking through the woods.
Oh, yeah. It'd been eating good.
And it stopped.
And let's see. So it was on a hill.
On the other side of a hill past a drainage ditch.
Yeah, and it was a little further down the hill. Not much, but a little further down the hill. So we're looking down at it, but there's at least 75 yards in between us.
Probably more.
Yeah, I mean, just not close enough we could take a shot, even with my chest.
Not close enough to take a shot, but close enough that you could see eyes.
Oh yeah, you could see it.
We sat there for a long time.
Oh yeah.
And that coyote did something weird though. He just came in, he watched those decoys for a while, and then he had him a seat.
He did. He sat down.
He just sat down and he just watched for a while. He knew something wasn't right because they weren't moving. He thought he was going to get him some turkey lunch, and he knew something wasn't right. And we finally got impatient enough.
Well, we were like, okay, no turkeys coming in.
My butt was numb. We'd been sitting there forever.
So we were ready to wrap up that morning hunt, and so we're like, how can we get this thing close enough we can blast it with a shotgun?
Yeah, because you cannot, in North Carolina, you cannot have a rifle with you during a turkey hunt. If you get busted, it's a big deal.
Yeah. So all I had was my 9mm, and that's no more effective than a shotgun at that distance.
No.
I'm a pretty good shot with my pistol, but no, I'm not gonna have an unethical shot. I mean, I know it's a coyote and they're a predator and all that, but I just didn't want to take that shot, and I didn't want to make the movement. So we started trying everything to get this daggone thing.
First, we started with I Googled a bunch of dying noises, like dying rabbit noises on my phone.
Yeah.
And that messed with him. Like, at first, he's watching. He's intrigued. Mm-hmm. And I started playing a dying rabbit, and he goes...
He's like, I see turkey.
He sees turkeys. He hears rabbits.
Yep.
And now he's like, I'm intrigued, but I'm not stupid. Mm-hmm. That didn't call him in.
Nope.
So I started looking up coyotes howling. And I'll never forget it because I started playing them, and his ears went up and kind of back. And he's like, where are they? Like, where are my people?
Yeah.
Why are they talking right now? And he was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
This is the wildest thing I've ever seen. And nothing would make him move. So we were tired of sitting there, and all of a sudden you started making crazy noises at him.
I was just like, first it started with, I was meowing like a cat.
Yeah.
Like, meow, meow, like that. And I'm like,
that coyote was like, what the heck?
Yeah, we went through 10 different animal noises to see what would just make him go.
Yeah.
We wanted him to come right at us and blast them.
Or leave.
Yeah. Because for whatever reason, we either wanted him to go or come to us.
Yeah.
And we tried everything. And then I just started talking to it like, hey,
yeah.
What are you doing? Like that. And it perked up and was looking at just so utter confusion.
Yeah.
But my thing is, from the time it came in, because you saw it walk in, and I didn't see it for the longest time. It found like a pine tree.
Yeah.
And you saw it, but I could not find it. And finally, when it sat down, you had to give me like specific details.
Oh, yeah, he was camouflaged.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like, how many times have I walked through the woods and a coyote is sitting like
just chilling out, watching you?
It was like a daggone gargoyle, sitting there. Like he didn't flinch, didn't move until we started doing those calls. And he was like a dog tilts his head. And that thing was so intrigued. But I would make a weird noise. You would laugh at me. And then finally we were just like, all right, let's get up. And we did. We stood up. I don't even remember what happened when we stood up.
When we stood up, the thing is, he didn't freak out and bolt like I thought he would. It was almost like when we stood up, he was like, yeah, okay, I thought that was people. He just turned around and trotted off like, all right, whatever, game's up.
Oh yeah, he didn't book it.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, next time him and like another coyote saw some turkeys, he's probably like, no, I'm not going after turkeys. There's something wrong with turkeys.
That's going back to ethical hunting. We just saved turkeys' lives from coyote.
Yeah, I don't know if that's ethical or not. I mean, that's just nature doing its thing. But
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But it was, and that's the thing. That was part of enjoying nature, because things don't always, in the woods or whatever, things don't always go as you plan them to go. The day that we shot the two together would be one of the best hunting stories that we probably ever have. Hopefully we make a lot more, but there's unexpected things that happen, and like a coyote showing up to your turkey call,
I'm sure it happens, but most people don't meow at him like a cat either.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing. What you got to keep in mind is you're going to go out there, do everything right, and you're not going to get any results, but you have to make the most of it.
Maybe for 10 years.
Yeah, and that's and that's kind of the moral of the story is that whole time, you go out expecting. Maybe expecting the worst, depending on your mood, expecting good, expecting bad other times. And sometimes you have this thought of, there's always the thought, whether it's deer hunting or turkey hunting, and it's freezing outside or something, or hot or whatever, you're sitting there and you're thinking, man, I could be at the house watching some cool show. Or
I could be in bed still. That's a big one for me. I could be cozied up to my pretty wife right now, instead of out here freezing my tail off at 7 degrees that one time. Yeah.
But that's the thing. The what it does for you when you're successful is amazing, and it's the perseverance and pushing through the hard times, the boring times, and finding joy in the monotonous times, because whenever, that's my favorite thing about deer hunting is when you get out there at 5:30 in the morning or whatever, and everything is quiet, maybe some crickets, and you're walking through quiet, you get in the stand and it's freezing, and you get to watch nature wake up. That's the coolest thing. You get to, squirrels start moving, birds start moving, chirping, talking. You have, but you just have everything waking up, and it's a great feeling. But then when your goal or your animal that you're going after, when it steps out, or if turkey starts calling and coming in closer, your senses get heightened, your adrenaline dumps. Nothing has changed. No one's attacking you, no one's fighting you, but you are in just this mode. Some primal feeling comes over you, and it's something that I'm trying to explain, but it's a feeling that I try to tell people, like, you got to enjoy all aspects of it, or it makes the whole experience better. But when you get to experience that buck walking out, that big doe walk out, that you want to put meat in the freezer, you've came when it's hot, and you've built this deer stand, spent your money doing it, or putting out corn, putting out this, that, and the other, doing a food plot, and it all comes to fruition. Mm-hmm. There's very few feelings that are better in this life.
The moral of the story is this: if you can't shoot turkeys, buy a new Chevrolet truck, and it all goes right from there.
Yeah. I just hope we reach somebody about hunting, at least,
or just let people enjoy the funny stories.
Yeah, I mean,
our screw ups over the years.
Yeah, hopefully it'll help people see that not everybody, even your people that hunt every year like me and you now, we make mistakes, and that's how you learn. And you have to be able to let nature teach you. You have to be able to learn from your mistakes, and you have to enjoy nature, because sometimes you're going to do everything right and not have much success. So
You have to learn to enjoy the process.
the growing, becoming a hunter. Also, if any wives watch this, you got to understand how much good it does for your husband to get out in the woods and to hunt something. It's something that we can't exactly explain, but that time away from a hard job, from humans that may annoy us, there's something about it that it just kind of, it's a getaway.
Yeah.
And it helps us more than and realize. But
All right. Let's wrap her up.
all right. Well, this has been the Donnaha Station. I'm Elijah Cox, and this is Jonathan Allen. We appreciate you listening to us. Go watch our other videos, some of the stuff we do. Some of our, we got other videos coming out. We hope you'll come back and watch and listen to us. But we appreciate it. Thank you.